Let's talk about new upcoming Clash of Clans updates with Community Manager Darian. I have a bunch of questions lined up for you, primarily from my community, around events, new town halls, alliances, using heroes whilst they're upgrading. We're going to throw at you all of the difficult ones. Thank you for joining me, my friend.
Hey, Judo, thanks for having me on. Man, it's always great to talk to you. And I actually do have some questions for you.
Oh, awesome. Well, I can't wait to get to that. Okay, overwhelmingly, the most liked comment with the new addition of town halls and the growing lack of space around the base. Have the team had much discussion about that? I'm sure you have, but what are your thoughts on that?
Interestingly enough, that's actually one of the hot topics on the team right now. So it's no secret that we plan on adding Town Hall 16, Town Hall 17, and so forth. And we're going to keep adding town halls for as long as there's Clash of Clans. But that does mean we have to keep an eye on the base real estate. So there are a few things that we are experimenting with. Many of these ideas are ones that have been hypothesized by the community. Maybe we'll see one of them in the next town hall update. Who knows? That's not a promise. It just means if we can get it to work properly.
Ooh, that is really interesting. What a way to kick this off. I'm trying to rack my brain of what we've seen across the community. Fusion of defenses, the army camps being fused together. I've certainly seen multiple suggestions.
You never know, but we do agree that base real estate is absolutely important. You know, being able to read a base right from the start and having like proper deployment zones. You know, we don't want to fill every single square inch with defense. Otherwise, one, you know, you can't put any obstacles or decorations, but two, it gets a little too complex when there's too many buildings. And let's not talk about the percentage, because the percentage thing with like the 100%, that's kind of an artificial one. Like we don't really have a 100 building limit, so the percentage thing isn't really an issue. It's more about like the space itself.
Oh, interesting. Have you considered expanding the base? I know this is something that was discussed a couple of years back as well and was kind of ruled out. Are you more going down the line of figuring out how to keep the base not as overwhelming versus expanding it? That's what it sounds like, but is there possibility of expansion as well?
I think that's one of the ones that it would be a last resort if we can't figure anything else out. Some things to consider when you look at increasing the base size is, you know, time constraints. If it's a bigger base, it's going to require more time to traverse. Does that mean it's enough to complete a 3-star attack? As the game gets more powerful, let's say Town Hall 16, 17, where there's more powerful defenses, more levels, you've got so many moving parts, so much complexity, increasing the map size may not be the right thing to do.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Town Hall 17 confirmed as well, by the way.
And so is Town Hall 18, so is Town Hall 19.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm kidding. I knew that was on the cards, right? There was a lot of questions, actually, with regards to the recent UI changes. And essentially, a lot of people feel like the progression bar was very valuable, and now it's not there.
So when we looked at updating the game UI, it looked like it was from 2012. That's when the game launched, and there hasn't been any significant updates to the game UI since then. And when you look at other games that have come out since then, the UIs have taken advantage of a lot more advanced technologies, and ours look pretty much like a dated tablet game. Now, there are some things in the UI that were absolutely valuable that, you know, to be honest, we simply overlooked when we rushed out to get this really updated UI. We love the info screen with the animations. The idea was to give players an idea of what that troop does or what that defense does. Will we add the bars back in? That's to be seen. This was just the first stage. I don't want to say that there's a multi-tiered stage to this UI, but if we feel the need to improve on it, we will iterate on it. And we're aware that the players absolutely love the progress bars. Personally, I totally understand where the players are coming from. Knowing how many levels are left for that particular town hall level, it is a good visual gauge to see how much more I need to upgrade that particular unit or defense. There is no discount, no arguing that. And it was just one of those things that we just overlooked. And the same thing goes with the confirmation button. Let's say upgrading walls. When you upgrade it, right below that is the button to hit the wall rings. That was never our intention to deceive players. It was simply oversight on our part.
Well, Thank you for being so honest about it first, Darian. I think the new UI is very informative for a new player. It looks very slick, but I totally understand the progression bar side of things. So I appreciate that you are looking into that. The community can be rest assured that you're going to try and make it work. I really hope they can find a solution, because I agree that it does give a nice gauge as to where you're at, and it actually gives you something to work towards as well. If you know you have an extra couple of levels, then, you know, you'll keep grinding in order to get that new troop upgrade or that defense upgrade. So it actually allows people to have motivation alongside knowing what the level is. The next one was with regards to clan alliance and more clan perks. What are the latest discussions in the team with regards to those things?
So, if you don't mind, a little back history.
Of course.
On the Clash. When I first started on the Clash team in 2017, it was largely a lot of the original Clash developers. And then when the team went through a dramatic shift between 2017 and 2018 with basically an entire roster change, and the team grew a little bit more. And that's when like Town Hall 12, Clan Games, Clan War League, Town Hall 13, that was like a second renaissance for Clash of Clans. Well, the team is massive now. Hopefully when I see you out here in Helsinki, you'll see just how big the Clash team is now. I want to say 40, almost maybe 50 people almost just in Helsinki alone.
Oh my goodness. That is
it's
like
huge.
Twice the size of what it last was.
And we're getting bigger. Like we're looking to ramp up. And the reason why I mention this, and this is my segue into this, we now have the bandwidth and the resources to start tackling a lot of the things that we've been kind of kicking down the road for years that we never had the chance to address. Whether it's the clan recruitment system, social features, whether it's clan alliances, perks. These are all things that, you know, we've been so focused on from a game team on just game development, new content, because as a small team, we can only focus on the next update at a time. We're now planning content months to half a year to almost a year in advance now. For example, the Clash Ween event, the concept has been in development for pretty much most of 2023.
Wow.
So that's how far ahead we're working now. And that means we can start conceptualizing and creating new social features and social ideas. So we've had a team retreat a couple weeks ago where we really talked about what were some of the core things that the Clash team wants and what are some of the core things the community wants. And so when the community manager spoke up about what the community wants, social features, social interaction, those were some of the key pillars that as a community team that we're really pushing the Clash team to develop. I don't have anything solid I can present yet, but these are things that are very much at the top of our priority list at the moment. It's not a guarantee that, you know, clan alliances and stuff like that will happen, but we see no reason for it not to happen. Right now, like, you know, it's Clash of Clans, and I hate saying the term, you know, once we got rid of global chat, you know, that's such a hot topic.
Well, there wasn't actually many questions about global chat. I seen it once or twice and there was very few likes about it. So I think people are getting the message over time, but perhaps it is something you can be, you know, integrating back in as part of those social features. That it definitely had its place.
It did. And I agree that it had a place and it did do some good. And the reason why I mentioned global is that once we removed it, there was no way for clans to interact with each other unless you use an external communication platform like Discord or Reddit or any other social media platform. And for a game that is supposed to be a social combat strategy game, we're kind of falling behind a lot of the social elements. So for us, that's one of the key pillars that we really want to elevate and level up our game is like, how do we make Clash more social? And that includes making sure that clans have the right tools to promote and grow their clans, whether it's some of the things we've discussed are, you know, specific roles in a clan, more tools for clans or clan leaders to manage their clan, whether it's ways to review clan applicants, to managing, you know, player performance, to, you know, having much more granular control over who gets what rewards and things like that. Just really putting more power in the hands of the players to manage their clans the way they want to. And again, you look at the game, the social features are very 2012. Even the chat system is very 2012. It's in dire need of an update. And these are all things that are basically things that we're working on. It's just they take time. And I can't say one of these will make it into the next update, but something will change in the near future. When I say near future, you know, I'm talking about a scope of like the next 12 to 24 months. I know in gaming terms, that seems like forever. In development terms, that's pretty much what time is required to make these kinds of changes.
Yeah, like big sweeping changes like that, I can, appreciate will take quite a while. So just a couple of things going through my mind there. One thing, actually, the management of players and performance, that could be huge because Discord is used a lot for that at the moment, and a lot of the Discord bots and things, even a couple of the websites. So that definitely would be helpful. And I get the feeling there might be a lot of viewers as they're listening to that thinking, is he alluding towards direct messages and voice chats? Because that's something that's came up over the years, but I obviously wanted to address that because I know there's been the reasons that global was removed. So essentially, I know your response was immediate there, but I wanted to ask that because I think there might have been quite a few people that were thinking that as you were asking that question. So amazingly, Darian, the next question was actually, there was a community survey back in July on how to improve the clan chat.
Yep.
Are you guys doing that? And it sounds like you are looking at it, nothing definite yet, but we can expect not just a little change, but something much larger at scale, is what it sounds like.
So that survey, and we also posted on Reddit as well to get like much more candid feedback outside of just a poll or a survey on what players wanted to see improved in the clan chat, whether it was adding the ability to respond to chats with emojis, to being able to run polls in your chat, just what can we do to modernize and update the clan chat system? We started laying some of the groundwork down for it, but we did have to shift some priorities for some upcoming content, but it is still on the production roadmap. So we want to make sure what we add to the system, whether it's a complete revamp, being able to reply to specific chats, having chat threads, these are all modernization updates we would love to be able to do. Again, just sitting down and making sure it gets done.
That's great to hear. And because I will say one thing that we heard a lot of in the past was this quality of life change, as small as it might have seemed to the community, it's on our list. And it seemed like the list was massive. It would be really good to start, having that knocked down at some point and really getting some of those what seem like small changes to really just make the gaming experience better for the community.
It's a matter of the community wants it and the community really feels like this would improve the game. It was never a matter of the community doesn't know what they want. Like, we see what the community wants and we want to do what the community wants. And now we have the bandwidth and resources to do it.
But the community also wants new content and updates. So I get the dilemma. On that note, the Mashup Madness event, it was really well designed. The troops were incredible. The whole system I felt was just extremely well put together for everybody. Can we expect things like this in the future? And if so, what might that look like? Would there be many changes to it? What was the team's thoughts following the event concluding?
Oh, very happy. As the Clashwing content started coming together, we realized we had a home run. It was one of the things, everything just fell together. The fun little storyline of Builder going crazy and turning the Elixir sour to him kind of turning Dr. Frankenstein or Island of Dr. Moreau, fusing everything together. We had a lot of fun producing this. Even the videos that we came up with, the video
was fantastic, by the way, the dev video.
Thank you. That video was a good example of what we've been doing at Supercell as far as restructuring. That was a video that was a collaboration between our user acquisition or UA, marketing, live ops, and community with a lot of input from the development team. It just felt good to have that many things fall into place. There were a lot of learnings at the end of the Clashwing event, such as looking at the Sour Elixir Cauldron. Maybe not have that as a building you place in your village, because that means people put it on the edge of their base, which led to a lot of 0% attacks, because people would just attack that Sour Elixir Cauldron and then drop out, attack it and drop out. So we're looking at some of the ways that people were taking advantage of the system.
Yeah, and maybe a couple of the bugs that came with the Cauldron might then be eradicated if you did change that in the future. You said there was a couple of things. Are you happy to share anything else you feel could be improved upon? Or
yeah, nerfing a troop mid-event feels really bad. So looking at a hit rate and success chart where the plot was a hit rate versus success, you saw these troops here. Electro Dragon was right about here. Lava Loon was way up here off the chart. That
I can believe it.
Yeah, that is a very skewed hit rate to success ratio. And even for a temporary event, it was very clear, like, okay, this is actually damaging the game economy more than being fun.
Okay, and when you said the sour elixir on the edge of the base and people sniping it, it sounds like that was a problem with relation to clouds, maybe? Because I'm trying to think of exactly what the problem is of people just sniping it at the edge of the base, or is there something that I'm obviously not thinking of there?
The sniping issue was more that it was causing a lot of high-level town halls to drop leagues.
Okay.
And that meant a lot of lower town hall levels, new town hall 15s or things like that, they were encountering a lot more clouds because of the activity level at a variety of leagues going on. So again, we're looking at ways to tackle the clouds thing as well. Again, looking at the age of the game, it's an outdated mechanism. So do we allow attacks to happen like builder base 2.0? Like, do we allow attacks to happen while you're online? But it does require loot to be stolen, so we can't really do that. So that adds a little complexity there. Or, do we remove the guard system? And, as soon as you log off, your base can be attacked.
That could be an option. Once you log off, you logged off, right? I mean, I could see that working.
Like, there's a few things on the table right now that we're looking at, especially if we do such a high engagement event like Clash of Wings. So there's a few things that we're looking at what we can do better. A few other things like, making sure that the number of medals that you can earn is very clear right from the start. And I know there's a lot of confusion around the communication about how many free medals you would get. Let's say they bought the Ghost Queen skin. Yeah, they got to get something for free at the expense of being able to buy anything else in the game.
Yeah, I think there's got to be a balance, right? I mean, for a first try, I think you guys, like you said, got a home run with it. It really was successful. A lot of questions about, are we going to see that again? I don't surmise the answer is no.
Yeah, no, it basically forms a template of future events. We're going to iterate on it and making sure that it's a system that can grow and scale as the game grows and evolves. But absolutely, yeah, you'll see that kind of event in the game very
Fantastic. One thing I would say from a side note is I think there's different ways you could cycle through events. Maybe not everyone might agree with me on this, but I think, typically we have Halloween, Christmas, Easter. There's different events that the Clashversary. I think if you did that same thing all of the time, it would get a bit repetitive and stale. But you had like the 10th Clashversary event where we had a free scenery when you went through the challenge levels. That in itself was an event that was very successful. There was a lot of hype around it. And I think just having a couple of different models of events that work and cycling through them would keep them feeling fresh as well. And yeah, just a little nudge to a free scenery in Clashversary. I think it really worked. It was fantastic, and people get to work towards a free scenery, right?
But you did touch on something correct in that we want to make sure that it doesn't end up feeling repetitive and formulaic after just a few tries. So like that's one of our goals. How do we iterate and evolve it to make sure it always feels fresh, always feels exciting? And when you log in and you see that event, like, ooh, I need to conquer this event and earn those rewards and keep that engagement up. And that's going to be the challenge of this new system.
Yeah, and one side note before we move on, I would also say just having a good story and lore behind it, like you did in this case, is pivotal as well to kind of just get you emotionally attached to the event. So again, fantastic job on it, and I think we can move to the next question because we covered that one in quite a bit of depth. Multiple builders on the same building. This is something I've seen suggested a lot.
At the moment, it's pretty much ruled out for now. Beyond that, there isn't really much I can offer. Like, it's just one of those like, yeah, we know the community wants that. It's a cool idea, but it's one of those like, the team is kind of lukewarm about right now.
Personally, I think it's a really good idea, but I could see where it could be trickier to balance the economy as well, so I can kind of see both sides. One thing that I do think could be adjusted is the use of heroes whilst upgrading. Very hot topic.
We know. We actually discussed it at our company or our team retreat a couple weeks ago, and it was one of those like, let's say we open the door and allow them for friendly challenges. And it was one of those like, well, why not? Why don't we allow it? But we're also looking at what are some alternatives to not having heroes available, but more like, what can we do to make the upgrade process more exciting? and more tempting? Like what makes it, could we do to make it more enjoyable and not just reducing upgrade costs or upgrade times? For example, would there be some kind of boost once they complete their upgrade? Things like that to make the upgrading much more worth it, because the upgrading heroes should feel more epic and more rewarding and more heroic. I mean, they're the heroes, they're some of the main parts of the game. So what can we do to make that feel much more exciting?
First, I would say friendlies. A friendly is a friendly. So in my point of view, I totally think they should just be allowed. When it comes to the boost, that's a great idea. I think if you can make it feel more epic, the community will love that. I would certainly love that. I don't think that solves the problem of it not being fun when your heroes are upgrading, because they're so pivotal at higher level. So I definitely think the boost could help, but I also feel like there should be a different solution, because the main problem is you don't have them and it's not fun. Now, maybe, I know you didn't have a hero added for Town Hall 15, but maybe to not have the complexity of more heroes on the battlefield, we do have some sort of hero hall and you take 4 into battle, and even if you upgrade 1, you're fine. Because I think there is an argument of, yeah, you're spending Dark Elixir to upgrade a hero that you can't use. That never feels good. But the same can be said for pets, spells, troops, anything. So maybe that is a way around it where you feel like, okay, I can upgrade this hero because I know I have another one to take into battle. That doesn't necessarily solve the problem right the way up to where we are now, though. I definitely think something needs to change to make that experience more fun. It's not very nice when you have to sit out of wars and you can't play the game to the full potential. So
yeah, it's frustrating when one of your main tactics relies on a particular hero and it's a tactic that you need for a particular war or event or something, and you're just like, well, I can't do this because my hero is down for upgrading.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's something the team's aware of, which is good to hear, and looking at solutions. So that's at least good news for everybody that was asking that question. On that note of wars, there was a few questions on the CWL and whether the sizes of CWL could be adjusted, because it's only 15 and 30. And I thought that was a really interesting question, because previously it was tied to qualification to the World Championships. But seemingly now it's not, and not going to be. Perhaps there could be changes to the CWL.
I know we haven't touched the CWL stuff in a while. I don't have any information on, if there's plans to adjust the size. I know it's been discussed, could we look at possibly doing custom sizes? One of the challenges is that when you have different sizes other than 15 and 30, you decrease the size of the pool of available matches unless someone is using that exact same size. So if you spin up a 25 versus 25, but nobody else is.
And matchmaking gets even worse then, right?
Yeah. Like I said, it's not as just simple as just letting people pick the numbers.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I surmise you are the only people that have those numbers, and only you would be able to dictate what those numbers would be. On that note, though, you did mention the custom war sizes. This is just a random question in here from me, because one of my most requested features, custom wars. Having the ability to customize anything, whether it's the attack time, we could have 30-second attacks, but 1,000 troop capacity. Or we could do anything you can think of, because it's a friendly.
Yeah. So right now, if you look at the 3 different types of wars that we have, whether it's friendly wars, normal clan wars, and clan war leagues, apart from the rewards that you get from clan war leagues, and the rewards from clan wars, there isn't really much to differentiate them. So what can we do to make clan wars feel a bit more unique and maybe even more attractive? I'll use my clan for example. Like, we rarely clan war outside of the war league. Like, once that 1 week is up, like, we just go back to normal clashing. But I'm always looking for an incentive to want to do more wars. And if we can do custom tailored wars, like even change some of the parameters, such as no air troops, you can only use ground troops, or certain troops are banned from the roster, like you cannot use E-Drags, things like that. Like, let players create some fun criteria for a particular war, and make clan wars have that level of flexibility. Maybe even add some uncontrollable variables. For example, the map changes. For example, like, there's meteors that hit random spots on the map as you're attacking, doing damage to everything around it. Things like that. Like, what can we do to add some more risk versus reward to clan wars? So again, all things on the whiteboard, nothing really set in stone just yet.
Oh, that's interesting. I think as long as clans could toggle that on and off, obviously, so you weren't just surprised with a frustration meteor wiping out your healers. But if clans could choose, and hey, if you opt in for the randomness like that, I think that would be fantastic. I still think custom wars where we could do anything would be amazing, but integrating that into the regular wars, that would be a lot of fun.
And just to add one last comment, like if there was like a sandbox type of environment, and I'm a huge advocate for sandbox type things because you don't know what kind of new game mode that the players will create. A good example is Dota evolved from Warcraft 3.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of people that's discussing that as well. It's really just assuring that you can keep the competitive integrity, and that's something we were perhaps going to get on later, but we might as well cover the topic right now, actually, if you're good with it. But like game balance, right now it's so hard with the pro scene and the general player base. It seems like the pros, they are so good at the game that it's really hard to balance between the two. It's kind of almost an impossible task for the team unless there's some sort of differential mode, like an esports or a pro mode, that the pro scene can use.
No, because our esports ethos has always been anybody from the Clash community can rise up to be a pro player and be the best in the world. It's just a matter of, the amount of dedication and skill required to get that good. And that was always kind of like the guiding star of our Clash esports. It was never about like, oh, these esports players, they're separate. They have their own thing. And then the rest of the players play here. We never wanted that to happen. We don't balance the game around the pro players. It's just not a thing. We do look at their success rates and take it into consideration when balancing endgame content. But it is primarily balanced around your average to above average player. How often are they getting a 2-star, 3-star, what units they're using? And if we see things, kind of skew the statistics, like I said earlier, lava balloon way up here, that's a very clear indication that something needs to be balanced regardless of your skill level.
Yeah, I don't surmise that you would balance it around the pro scene, but I think where it becomes difficult is just factoring it in the way that you said, because balancing around the average player, the difference is so drastic. I think Town Hall 15 is still too hard. Maybe there's some sort of draft system you can integrate into the pro scene. Just something that allows you to, because you have to factor in the pro scene in the balance side of things. But I don't know, it's a really difficult one, and it's so hard to get that balance to keep everyone happy. But I agree, if it's one or the other, then it unfortunately has to be the general player base, and the pros have just got to build better bases, I guess. Next one on my list, though, is the revenge system. I don't know if you do have some sort of answer for that, but a lot of people feel like it could be reworked. Personally, I have no clue how you would do that.
We've had discussions whether we just get rid of it, but I really liked the...
I like it.
I do too. If someone hits me, I want to be able to hit back. And you insulted me, I'm going to insult you back. And that goes back to whether we get rid of the guard system, or what do we change the shield system to be able to revenge through the shield system, kind of like similar to a builder base where you can attack someone while they're online. It's one of those, it'd be nice to have, it'd be nice to do, but it's not too high of a priority right now.
Yeah, I suppose, I don't think this would work necessarily, but maybe if you were happy having your base attacked, it might even help with the clouding issue. If you could select, yeah, I am happy my base getting attacked, and yes, I will lose more loot, but maybe you get some sort of reward in exchange for that. I don't know what that would be to balance it, but if I had a reward that for me I felt was more beneficial than my loot, which I can just farm and get back, then I'd be fine for more people attacking me. But I don't know what that would be. I don't know how that would work. It's just something that kind of came into my mind as you were saying that.
Well, you have to look at also the balance of economy. If you're able to attack me while I'm online, I can't lose resources, because what if I have X amount of resources and you attack me and I lose some of it and I no longer have the ability to upgrade something? Or let's say I upgrade something while you're attacking, and therefore you don't get the full loot that you were supposed to get. So how do you reconcile the two, discrepancy of loot balances if you're able to attack while stealing loot from someone? And stealing loot in Home Village is a key mechanic that I don't think we're willing to change anytime soon.
What about emotes in Clash of Clans? This is something that I would personally like to see, and they integrate into Royale tremendously. I think it would almost be a no-brainer, to add them to Clash of Clans. You could have them when spectating attacks. Maybe if the clan system was improved in the future, you could use your emotes in there. And I would love to see them. But some of the Royale emotes are phenomenal.
They'd have to be done very intelligently and cautiously because one, while I'm doing my attack, timing is absolutely important. Like I wouldn't want an emote out of the corner of my eye. If I'm looking at the lower left-hand corner of a base and I see an emote in the center screen, I don't want my brain to accidentally think that was a trap being set off.
I don't think the attacker should see it. I think it would just be for spectators in Clan War. You know, if like it's the final attack of the war, there's 10 of us watching our teammate attacking, you know, because everyone's had that feeling when they come back to clan chat and the chat just blows up. But if you could then go back into the replay and see what your teammates were cheering and when, and like, I don't know, it would be a cool feeling. And as a viewer, it would definitely be good. But I totally agree with you. I don't think the attacker should see the emotes at all because it would be very off-putting.
That's an interesting proposition, and it would be a smarter way to do it than like having it invisible to the attacking player, but only the clans see it. I don't see why it couldn't work. I'm all for much more social interaction in the game. You know, just good fun banter. Like I think emotes do a good job of doing that.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how easy it is to integrate them. Now, Darian, I do want to ask you about Town Hall 16 and what the future looks like for Clash of Clans. Before we do that, there was one or two builder-based questions. I want to basically lump these kind of into one because essentially people were asking, will we ever see single-player maps or practice maps for builder base? Will we see wars for builder base? And or is there just other stuff you would like to discuss?
I mean, those are all very complex questions. So when we redid builder base 2.0, it was, you know, to address a lot of the problems that builder base 1.0 had. We don't plan on ignoring it like we did with builder base 1.0 where we just went to builder hall 9. No, we do plan on adding more content to builder hall 10, 11, 12. It's going to be more stuff, whether it's, you know, more stages to dig down into, not just a 2-stage attack, but a 3-stage, maybe 4. Like, we'll see how far it goes. The thing that's missing from builder base, and the players are well aware of this, is the social element of builder base. So with the removal of head-to-head, you know, that does open up the idea of, are there more things that we can do? Like, could we do a builder base wars? That's definitely on the list of things we'd like to experiment with if that's something that sounds good. But we need to make sure that it's different enough from the home village clan wars. Like, if it's just getting your clan and doing clan wars in builder base with just different troops in a different environment, is that really going to be attractive enough to get people excited about the content? So you kind of see where the
dilemma,
you know,
is.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Where the dilemma is of, like, you know, if we wanted to add that to builder base, would it be better by adding it to the home village? So what can we add to builder base that's very specifically builder base flavored and still adds that fun element that makes people want to play builder base? Because I really like the new builder base, and I would love to see more social elements added to it.
I think in the meantime, even single player maps and practice maps, that is something that I feel, you know, when the time is there, absolutely could be integrated just to teach people a little bit of the strategies. A bit like what we had with the builder base Bonanza challenges. Because the goblin maps, even though you tend to only do them once, they are really fun. Just having that feeling in builder base as well, I can see where it would be enjoyed from the community.
Those builder base challenges were a lot of fun to make. So I would love to see that kind of stuff on builder base side.
For sure. Clan Capital. Just what does the future look like for Clan Capital? Obviously, we have the raid weekends. Is it just more districts, or can we expect something else?
Probably something else. The technology that went into Clan Capital's design is much more advanced than builder base or home village. It does give us more flexibility on how we want to grow the Clan Capital. And yes, there will be more districts. There will be more new troops, whether it's new super troops, more new defenses. But again, we don't want the scale and the scope to go so complex. Like, okay, another district that I have to upgrade, that I have to upgrade my district hall, then I've got to upgrade my capital hall, then upgrade this many defenses, and like
to upgrade your district hall, to upgrade your capital hall, to upgrade your
Seth will appreciate that you quoted him. I was thinking that as I was saying it too. It just gets stuck in your head.
We couldn't not be said.
But we are looking at, like, what are some interesting things that we can add, whether it's a leaderboard or like what are some competitive elements that we can add to Clan Capital, make it not just, okay, Clan Capital raid this weekend is here, everybody get your attacks in, oh cool, let's, we beat this capital and let's move on to the next one. As part of our kind of a development cycle wheel, originally we were looking at, okay, this one's going to be, town hall update, then a third of the year later, or was it 9 months later would be a builder base update, 9 months later would be clan capital update, and in between would be a refresh of the one that's directly opposite of it. So every 9 months, one feature would get an update kind of thing. If it's a town hall, 9 months later, town hall would have gotten like town hall 15.5. Then 9 months later, it would have been town hall 16. So builder base, builder hall 11. 9 months later, would be builder hall 11.5. 9 months later, builder hall 12. But the real world doesn't work like that, and we're always constantly shifting things around. So some stuff for clan capital might come sooner, some might come later, but we do have goals and ideas in mind for clan capital.
That's good to hear. And on that note, I do actually, personally, I think there should always be changes to the home village. I know it's harder, I would think, from a dev side of things, but I'm not sure that having a town hall drop and then just leaving it as is for 9 months until the next one is the way to go. I think having those more incremental updates and upgrades as you go is more exciting. I think there should always be stuff for the home village going on.
No, we agree. We agree with that. The 9-month thing looked good on paper, but we're looking how we can kind of spice it up.
Cool. Well, that's good to hear. I think what I was going to say is home village is why people fell in love with the game. So
Yes,
it is
absolutely.
always going to be kind of at the heart. So with that said, then, the next town hall is Town Hall 16. I've got a couple of questions that were asked from the community. Can we expect a new hero? Can you give anything away?
Probably not.
Oh, not the answer I wanted.
I know, and I know a lot of players would be disappointed that, you know, I'll be honest, like, you know, a new hero, we would like to add one day, and the last time we added a new hero was Town Hall 13. So when we release Town Hall 16, it'll be 3 Town Halls since we've added a new hero. I don't think we are ready to add one yet, and the reason behind that is we don't want 5 heroes on the map, because that just feels overwhelmingly complex, unnecessary to keep track of 5 heroes simultaneously, especially whether it's a casual player or even at the pro player level, trying to have like your fingers, okay, I've got to trigger this, got to trigger that, got to trigger that. It's too much. And we've experimented with, you know, different hero ideas. The other one is, you know, finding the right niche. What kind of hero do we want to add that is additive to the game? Is it just a flying tank dragon? If so, why? Like, what role is that meant to fulfill? Right now, there's a good balance with the heroes, and we want to make sure that if we add a new hero, it doesn't screw that balance. We've got a tank, we've got ranged, we've got support, and we've got, well, Royal Champion, who just kind of does her own thing. And could we change something in the game to make the heroes much more functionally balanced? Or would adding a new hero do that? Like, is there something like we can add to the heroes, whether it's a new pet that makes the heroes do something different? Or, like, why would we add a new hero and add that level of complexity when there could be something else in the game that could fix that? So until we kind of reconcile that and really understand, like, you know, this is a new hero that we want to add, that we absolutely need. Like, we don't want to just add one just because we haven't done one in a while.
So the pets were almost a way of allowing you to bring mini heroes or iterations to the heroes without adding a new hero, essentially.
Right.
And then there's no complexity because you just set it and forget it.
Correct.
One follow-up on that then, I guess, and I'm not hard sell on this or anything, but when you said you have a good mix of heroes, I agree, I think we do. What would be the negative, just thinking out loud here, of if we did have another melee hero, but you could only take 4, so if your strategy warranted, you could take 2 melee heroes, 2 tank heroes. You could just take 1, or maybe if there was 2 ranged heroes, you could take none. Like, is there a reason of not bringing a duplicate type of hero? I agree, a fresh, new idea is always going to be best. But is there a reason of saying we're not going to bring another tank melee hero?
Ooh, that's a complex answer that I don't think we have enough time for. In a nutshell, I guess the asked question is why?
I think heroes are always more exciting than troops, but because they're rarer. So you can understand that if you do start to add more of them, maybe they lose that feeling. So there's pros and cons. I just wondered whether the team did have a reason behind not wanting to do that. Obviously, people can share in the comments, you know, what they think on that subject and anything else. One of the other key questions on Town Hall 16 was, do you have a theme locked in? Because we had the jungle theme at Town Hall 14, the magic theme at Town Hall 15. Have you started thinking about themes for Town Hall 16?
Yeah, no, we've got the theme nailed down.
Oh, nice. Okay, I guess that's as far as that question goes then, huh?
Yeah, we know what the theme is.
Oh, well, but that's good. Town Hall 16 is in the works. But 18 months, I think you've said in the past, is roughly 18-month guideline, which would take us into April-ish.
We know what the theme is.
Think. Darian? Okay, any additional comments then? Because I feel like I'll just be nudging you and nudging you. Any additional comments for Town Hall 16?
Well, we know what the theme is.
Okay, I get it. I get it.
We know what content, as far as the core content that we want to do for Town Hall 16, like we're fairly sure we've got that nailed down.
Okay, cool. Obviously, it's clear you're not going to share too much. It's great for the community to hear that you're obviously, working on it and things. And I don't feel I need to say this, but new town halls need to feel special,
Yeah,
they need to have that special. And I think based on what you were talking about before, we might be able to expect something offense-based to help with our attacks.
It'd be nice.
We can read between the lines of what you were talking about before. So anyway, my final question, I know you said you had a couple for me, but my final question was basically, what do the coming years look like for Clash of Clans? And I guess if you've got any additional things that you wanted to bring up, then you could, tag them on at the end of this question as well.
Ooh. So with the way that the team has been restructured and grown, I'm hoping and I'm expecting and I'm anticipating the Clash team to go through a third renaissance like we did when we did Tunnel 12 and 13. The team is supercharged and motivated to really try to experiment with a lot of things. And the Clash winning event was a good example of that. So when we did Tunnel 12 and 13, we looked at what were some of the sacred cows that the Clash team wasn't willing to do. We just said kind of like, well, why not? Let's just do them. And that led to clan games and so forth. So we're now looking at some of the things that have gotten formulaic about Clash of Clans. And we're looking at like, why don't we do these instead of this? Like we said, we didn't want to do these things. Well, why not? And that's talking about like, the clan recruitment tool or more social interaction. No, it does not mean we're evaluating whether or not to bring back global chat. That will probably never change. But I would say the next several years of Clash of Clans are going to be pretty exciting. Looking at like chess.com collaboration, which was a lot of fun. That was like our first cross-brand collaboration. Hopefully we can see more of those in the future.
That's fantastic. I mean, last time I was in Helsinki, I saw how passionate the team was. I also applaud you for tackling those things head on that you've always said no to, because I feel you do have to take risks, really try and put the best content out possible. So yeah, I look forward to the future of Clash. Thank you for being so honest in this interview. And I guess you had a couple of things to ask me.
So yeah, question for you. A couple pillars of Clash of Clans. One is, the current players who are very active, players who have churned or have gone away, and then, new players. So in terms of what do you think's missing from holding on to players from constantly playing the game?
I think a big factor is content cycles and what we discussed earlier. The amount of time in between home village content is not ideal. So that's definitely something which could cause players to churn.
You think more content more frequently would help address some of that?
Yes, and even events. I know they come and go, but that is still more content, And I think there's been times where there's just such a gap in between new, fresh content. I think one thing that Frank from the Brawl Stars team discussed, and I don't want to misquote him or anything, but he was talking about how the game being fun is always going to be the best, even if it's not always as well received from the community. New features that change up the gameplay and that make it feel fresh is always something that is great for new players to pull new players in, but it makes existing players also feel like there is something new for them. I always remember when Royale came out, there was a Radio Royale where they talked about purposely switching the balance of the cards to keep the meta fresh, because there's nothing more unexciting than just a stagnant meta.
I think you're pretty much in line with what the current Clash team thinks as well, is that a much more rapid update cycle of new content more frequently would be good. But at the same time, while we do want to add more exciting and fun things to Clash, keep in mind that Clash also has a 12-year history, so we can't change too much too radically. Like, we have to do incrementally at times. We do want to add some more exciting new features to Clash, but we've got to do it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, once you have a more developed game in this scenario, it's harder to take those risks because there's so many more players. So that's the difficulty that you have. But I think, like you said, the team is tackling those head on, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. Any closing words?
Well, to you guys and, you know, to the community, keep that feedback coming. We're aware of what the things that you guys want, and we want to implement them. So please never stop giving us that feedback. Never stop giving us that criticism. Never stop giving us compliments either. We want to know what you like, but we also want to know what you don't like and what you want. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, from the Clash team, to all of you out there for making this awesome community.
Yeah, I think just being honest is always best, but there's definitely a constructive way to put your thoughts across. Even if you don't like something, there are ways to put that across. Be sure to leave it in my comments as well. I'm sure Darren will be going through the comments of this video. But again, thank you so much for joining. I hope that was helpful for everyone that submitted questions, and we will catch you in the next one. In fact, I will pop a video right here for you. Have a good one.